Welcome to the Creative Ticket podcast, brought to you by Pacific Video. I would like to start by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which this podcast has been originally created, the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation. I pay my respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people listening today. I am Geraldo Rodriguez, Sydney-based actor, writer, and director, and on this podcast I'll talk to artists from all over the world about their craft, their careers, inspirations, and insights. If you are an arts fanatic like myself, make sure to follow and subscribe so you won't miss out on new episodes. Tito Ferradans is a cinematographer, motion graphic designer, and a content creator. He is the co-founder of Final Version 2, a post-production studio based in Canada, and he's also the heart and soul of the Anamorphic Channel on YouTube, dedicated to sharing insights and knowledge regarding anamorphic lenses in everything cinematography. He has partnered with brands such as Lumix and Atlas to create the fantastic Anamorphic Cookbook series, a comprehensive guide to anamorphic lenses in theory and in real life. Welcome to the Creative Ticket, Tito. It's an honor to have you on the show.
Thank you, Geraldo. It's an honor to be here. I'm really excited about this conversation and where this is going to take us.
I am in Sydney and it's freezing cold. You're in Canada and it's warm.
Who knows? The world we live in.
Yes, it's winter here in Sydney. We have shorter days, but we have beautiful sunlight. It's 8 o'clock in the morning for me. What about for you?
It's 3 p.m. in the afternoon.
Amazing. Tito, I'd like to start with university. We went to the same university. You are much younger than me. And in university, one of your first projects was Zona SSP, which takes on real events that happened in São Paulo in 2013 to tell a story about a dystopian reality. How was that experience like?
That was an interesting project, mainly because I was doing that in an elective class instead of one of my graduation projects. And everyone working on that project was not in the film program. So I had to walk people through what is directing, what is writing, what is set deck, what is sound design, because the professor was really absent in that class, which was a blessing in disguise, honestly. Because if they were really involved, we wouldn't have been able to bring that project to life. And I really needed a platform outside of the audiovisual course, which is where my degree is in, because there was a lot of restrictions on which kind of content and the structure that students could make. Like you could make a project that was more focused on practice and you would make a film, or a more theoretical piece for graduation where you'd write a thesis about someone else's work. And I kind of wanted to do something different by making a short film and exploring the technical requirements for that process, especially because I was getting involved with anamorphic lenses. That's where it all began, with the idea that anamorphic lenses are unaffordable. And I was set on proving that statement wrong. So I wanted to make a short film using anamorphic lenses in Brazil. No money. We had maybe like $500 for that for the production. And I bought the lenses, which at the time set me back maybe $2,000 for a wide array of lenses. And through that process, I was documenting the lens tests, how they behaved, how they influenced the process of making the film, and also working on the film and the story itself with the crew and the other people in the class. So it was a really, really creative journey in which I got to learn and explore. That is the value of film school, I feel, is you get to explore a bunch. and that was the project for me. Like I got to explore a lot.
And was university your first contact with film or filmmaking or short films, or had you done that before?
Uh, I grew up in Salvador, Bahia, and my family has, we don't have connections to film, but everybody's been pretty fascinated with them. I have an uncle who has a YouTube channel now, but when I was growing up, he would make like uh, short films with a VHS camera and use his friends as the actors, and we would be involved. Like me and my sister would be involved. Uh, we would film like Playmobil action adventures and use various video cameras, mini DV, high 8, with our own friends as kids to make films. But then I ended up going to computer science for a degree. And within a year and a half, I was like, I can't really do this. I want to pursue a career in film. And so I had that kind of experience. And as I was studying to get into university, that's also when I started to study photography on my own. Uh, I was already studying After Effects on my own and learning about like shutter speed, is the triangle of exposure, focal lengths, all of like the core technical side of photography is what I was working on while trying to get to university. So when I did get started into film, I had technical knowledge to back me up.
And what were you looking for when you chose filmmaking instead of computer science? Did you find what you were looking for and what you couldn't find in computer science?
I think so. What I really wanted was to find people who wanted to tell stories through a like visual and sound medium. And in computer science, didn't quite get that. Like I got bogged down a lot by the math, so there was a barrier there. But at the same time, like I was involved in a lot of things while I was going to computer science, and it just wasn't my calling. Like at the same time I was going to university for computer science, I was editing videos for my high school professors and like creating visual content that would help them through their classes. And like this is way more interesting and way more fun than what I'm doing. I guess I just wanted to use computers. That was the key takeaway from it.
That's really interesting. It's and do you find that whatever you learned in computer science is still useful to this day, or not really?
Actually, yes. Like understanding how you break down, uh, like I don't know if it's still the word used today, but like the algorithm for like a series of operations. I still use that a lot. I still use JavaScript in my work with After Effects, which is not great language. But anyways, uh, I still understand a little bit of like how programming works, even though I can't do any of it myself. And I think
I
that's
see.
worth it.
And I, growing up in Salvador, which is probably the most important artistic city in Brazil, uh, did that shape your filmmaking anyhow? Did that in my opinion, of course, but did that shape in any way your view of the arts world or of filmmaking itself?
I think it did. And at the time, I thought that was bad. Like most of my big time realizations about my experience in Brazil came after I moved to Canada. And I look back onto film school or like onto the structure, how we approached filmmaking then, and think, oh, wow, that was so much easier or so much more accessible. But at the time, I was like, there's no structure here to do this. There's no structure for making movies. Everything that I want to make is a huge hassle. And I really wanted to make action films. So let's make that clear. So I wanted to make action films. And everywhere I went, I was like, oh, that's not really safe. Oh, I don't know if I want to be involved. Oh, I don't know if I want to like help this. Oh, I don't know how to drive. Everything was a challenge, which is what pushed me towards learning After Effects. So I could film a tiny bit of things and then just enhance everything greatly in post production. So I learned post because I was too frustrated with what I could do in real live action filmmaking. Uh, but yeah, it more of shaped my appreciation for the craft. Uh, and it's even more in hindsight than it did at the time. At the time, I left Salvador because I thought it was too slow. And then I left Sao Paulo because I thought it didn't have enough room for the space where I wanted to be, which was in post production. Like you had 2 or 3 big post houses by the time I graduated, and 4 people working in each. So you either are that person or you're not. And I was not.
And that's one of the reasons why you moved to Canada. And then you went to Vancouver Film School. Was that a pursuit to, like, were you pursuing After Effects? Were you pursuing post-production in Vancouver?
Yeah. So Vancouver Film School had a great marketing campaign, um, in which they offered really great big discounts for international students. Me and my partner at the time were like, oh, this is a great idea because we can go and further our studies in this field that we want to. She wanted to do sound, and I wanted to go into visual effects. So Vancouver Film School has a program for visual effects and 3D animation, and you kind of like have a common first 6 months, and then you go into your specialization. And I ended up choosing visual effects, which is not related to, like, the industry doesn't love After Effects. The visual effects industry uses mostly Nuke. So I had to learn that and have an understanding of the 2 different softwares and know which one is best for which task. So I thought that was an interesting learning experience and advantage.
And when you say you realized how much influences you had from Salvador when you went to Canada, is because I had a chat. I don't know if you've met Danilo Gambini. He's living in New York. He's living in Washington right now. He also went to ECA. He also went to the same film school and the same acting school. And he became a director. And he said there is a privilege to being an immigrant because we see the things in a different culture from a perspective of someone that has lived in a whole life before that in a different culture. But we are also able to look back to our own culture and see what is different. We can see both good things in both. We can see bad things in both. Was that also part of your journey as an immigrant?
I don't think so. Things didn't really work out for me for the first 4 or 5 years of being in Canada. Uh, and it was directly related to my immigration status. Like I couldn't get a job because I didn't have a work permit, and I had to keep going to school to get enough time to apply for a work permit. Like VFS promised everyone work permits, and then at the end of the program, they're like, surprise, nobody gets a work permit. And then out of 35 people in my class, 33 went back home. Um, yeah, it was pretty hardcore. So after that, I drifted for another 6 months, and I'm like, what am I gonna do here? Oh my God. And like volunteering and doing other things, but nothing that had like any money in it because I couldn't get paid legally. Uh, and then I ended up going to Langara College I was going for creative writing and taking some electives in the film program. Both professors on those classes were like, you should take our film program. And that's what I did. And that was the 3rd time that I went to film school. And I think that I'm done now. No more film school. Still some more education, but no more film school. And that's like after Langara is when I got my permanent residency, and that allowed me to start actually working. At that time, I had a lot of like contacts, so I started working on set, but it was still like at least a year until I was able to actually pay my own bills. And like in that sense, I'm super, super privileged to have my parents support me through that process, but it was a hassle. It was only after that all of that was clear that I was able to think back about the things that I learned and that I experienced in Brazil and compare them in a productive way, I'd say, because I'd be like, I can't do anything in this country. I don't understand how the bureaucracy works. I don't understand what I'm missing. I don't understand, or like I understand that I can't work, and that's about it. So that was a bummer. But I also got to appreciate, like, when I was going to university in Brazil, I hated with a passion the history of cinema classes. We had like history of Brazilian cinema, history of world cinema. We had a documentary class, all the theory classes. I was like, this is the worst thing ever. It's a waste of time. I just want to go out there and make movies, like be running around with a camera. And I did a lot of that. I filmed a lot. But I still had to pass those classes, so I did. And then upon getting here and understanding that the majority of people in the industry does not have that kind of education. Like they understand what shots are, but not like, oh, this shot originated from this context. When we first had cuts, it was a big deal. People freaked out in the theater. So like you have theory to understand what cuts mean. You have your good, what's his name? It's not Eisenstein, it's the other guy. It's the experiment where he cuts to someone's face and then a plate of food and then back to the guy's face. Oh my God, what's his name? It's not Eisenstein.
With the plate with the
Kuleshov.
food.
Yeah, Kuleshov. Kuleshov effect. Yeah. In which you build relationships between cuts to create context. And like people don't have that theoretical base here, which I think is the best thing that I got from university in Brazil. Like from the other 2 times that I went to film school, there was no emphasis in theory whatsoever. It was all practical, all like, this is an industry, this is a trade. But it's more than that. Like it's an art and it's a craft. And if the reason for like, oh, I want to make this shot is because this shot is cool. Like if that's the end of the reasoning, I think we end up with an impoverishment of the art. We end up with movies that have a lot of like cool, but very little substance. And that's a struggle. Like Vancouver is known for movies that look really good, but don't have a lot of substance to them. And I think it comes from this mindset of knowing the craft, knowing the technical, but not being completely familiar with the theory of like the whys and yeah.
So apparently you've answered one of my next questions,
Well,
which is some people will advocate for that you do not actually need to go to film school to become a filmmaker. Some people will say, hey, yeah, you don't actually need, but you will meet people with whom you will work later in your career, or you might learn a lot of things that it would take you a lot longer to learn on YouTube University or just by doing workshops and stuff. What is your take on that? You that have had a lot of experience in different universities.
Yeah. My favorite thing about film school in Brazil is that it was good and it was free. If you have to pay 100-something grand for film school, then I'd be like, maybe you can go without it. And that's a privilege. Like that is a huge privilege that in Brazil, some of the best schools are federal and state schools that are free. But out here, like I would have considered way more if I needed to have a degree. Like all of my studying mostly came from, I need some paperwork and this is the way to get it. The VFS wasn't, but that didn't work out very well. And now I'm doing a graduate degree in liberal studies that I'm actually going for, like a topic that I chose. And like, I'm doing this because I want to, not because I need this piece of paper. But I'd say the best thing about film school is the connections they make. Like you will meet people in film school that are at the same level or around the same level, maybe a little bit higher, maybe a little bit lower as you. And those people are going to have careers. Uh, it's not going to be everyone. Like out of all of the film schools that I did, I'd say maybe 10, 20% of the people are actually still in film. Uh, so not everyone's going to turn into something, but later on you have this shared history, and like you, if you do work together, which is not a given, uh, it is much easier. Like you have a starting point, because if you go not going to film school, the options are in the industry, you start out as a PA. And as a PA, you don't learn any filmmaking. Like you really don't learn any filmmaking. You stand in the rain and you block sidewalks and you do things like that, but you don't learn any like storytelling, directing, cinematography, sound. You don't learn anything. You got to go and do it. So that's option one if you want to enter straight in the industry and getting paid. Option number two is you're going to work in a bunch of indie productions. And that is a mixed bag. Like you can get really lucky and meet a great crew and have people that lift you up and take you on their journey. And you learn with them or you learn from them. That's great. But a lot of times you get people that are like, oh yeah, bring a camera and you're going to get some pizza and we're going to make something. But it's like they don't know what they're doing either. So you're learning something, but it not be something right or something good. And that's a big risk. So going outside of film school, I'd say you have to be very lucky or be connected in some way to the industry to be able to get an education that's going to take you places.
And what do you think? What has kept you in the industry? Was that same drive for storytelling? Because if out of 100, only 10 or 20 are still in the industry, that's a very low percentage. I'm not sure that happens with doctors. I'm not sure that happens with other professions. I imagine it does. Maybe it does, but I imagine most professions that doesn't happen. Or is it because the industry itself is very competitive and very hard to move on, to keep yourself in the industry?
Yeah, I think at least in North America, I don't know in other parts of the world, the industry is very exploitative of new people. So people go to film school or they have the dream of working in film because it's their passion. It's the thing that they really like, the glamour, the magic, all of that. And they go into the industry and they're young and naive. I know because I was. And then you get hit on the head a bunch. And like you don't get paid, you work overtime and you don't get food, you work on some really sketchy conditions, or you don't get any work for a really long time. Like most of the people who went to film school with me as actors, they just stopped because there is no work. Like I don't know what's the path to become an actor. So it is a very, very hard industry. And it's not hard as in like there is a way to go about it. The way to go about it is you just stick it out through the suffering. That's it. Like you get a bad deal and you're like, okay, maybe the next one I'll do better. But there's no guarantee. There's no guarantee. There's no structure. We have a union. We have a couple unions, which are good, but there's a lot of non-union work in post-production. That's where I'm at. There is no union, at least here. There is no union. There's talks of making a union. Some studios have unionized, but a lot of times is they will hire people, work through crunch time, which is like 15-hour days, deliver the project, and be like, well, we don't have anything else coming up, so I guess everybody can be laid off now. Like, and the way this happens is because of how the industry is set up. Like, productions will come to various studios and say, how do you bid on this show? And studios will say, I will do this for X amount of money. I'll do this for Y amount of money. And then production is going to pick the lowest. and just do that. And a lot of times the studios just need the work. They're going into debt. Uh, so they're exploiting the artists because they're being exploited themselves. And it's kind of a race to the bottom in that sense. Like people don't get paid enough. So they move on from the industry because they're like, maybe next year will be better, but next year is not better. And something else is. Something else is at least steady. Like it is I'd say it's very little job security working in film overall.
But at the same time, I agree, 100% agree with everything you said. At the same time, I feel like in the last probably 20 years, or maybe less, 15 years, with digital, although it's still an industry that's very much how can you put it? It's very much a wild industry. Many people were able to, not in filmmaking, but in creating corporate videos, training videos, videos for social media, actually learn the craft or learn a lot about what it is to pick up a camera, set the lights, set the audio, and start editing and publishing it out there. Do you think that's an alternative, or is it still pretty much more of the same?
No, I think that the digital revolution was a great happening. It was a great thing because it allowed a lot of people that wouldn't have a voice otherwise to tell their stories. I think this is phenomenal. I'm a big fan of YouTube and how it's a platform that anyone can do the thing that they want. And there's like true masterpieces on YouTube that are entirely free, that people have poured their blood, sweat, and tears into it and made amazing work, amazing like full feature films, short films, documentaries, explainers, like all of this material that uses images and sounds. The What I think is the hard part is make that a living, as in a living wage. If for my channel, for example, it has never paid off. Like it has never, and it will never pay off. I will never make money, or I will never make more money than what I put into it. So I do it because I like it. I do it because I am driven about having people learn about this topic. It's not about making the money. Every time I tried to monetize it in a way that it was profitable, I burned out and I almost quit it. I almost quit this channel so many times. And in the end, I realized that it's like, if I'm not having fun with it, I'm not going to do it, period, because I'm not getting paid for it. So I'm just doing it for the fun. While working in film, you're working it for the fun, but also because it's a life. Because it pays your bills, because it provides you housing and food and entertainment. And that curve is like really hard to climb. Be like, okay, I make nothing and then I can't afford my lifestyle. It's hard today with the industry as it is, and even with all the options, with content creation, with social media, with corporate, educational, like those are great, more opportunities. And I'm grateful for the digital revolution because other people could get into the space. Otherwise, it's always the same people. Like whoever has a red first will be the DP. That was the thing. That was the thing. It's like, oh yeah, he's a DP because he's got a red. So, yeah. I don't know. Did this answer this question? I think I went on a tangent off of a tangent.
Yeah. I feel I understand. I I find it very funny. That's a very. How did you become a DP? Look, I saved money. I bought a red, and I said, now I'm a director of photography.
Yeah.
Bring it up.
Yeah. I know
Bring it
people
on.
who were like, I asked my parents for a camera. They gave me a red, and then I'm a DP. It's like they didn't even save the money. So
Okay.
yeah,
Going back a little bit to your channel. So the Anamorphic channel has close to 50,000 subscribers, which is a lot, but a lot for a niche cinematography channel. And you have partnered with big brands, showcasing products, but essentially creating compelling content. And you explain everything about anamorphic lenses and a lot about cinematography as well. How did that passion for anamorphic lenses start?
yeah. Uh, Back when I was in university in the year of 2012, uh, in Brazil, that was the time when everybody was like, the Canon 5D is amazing. Can't afford it. I'll buy a 7D instead. So everybody had a 7D, myself included, and everybody had the same lenses, which was Canon L, like Canon EF lenses, L series. So while we were working on our films at school, they all looked the same because the sensor was the same and the glass was the same and the access to the lights was the same. And every film, like, it was a little different, but there was nothing like, oh, yeah, this is wacky. There was none of that. And in the middle of 2012, I came across anamorphics and I'm like, this seems weird. It was through EOS HD, Andrew Reed's website. Uh, so I read they had a forum going on, and I read everything that I could, and I watched a bunch of videos, and I was like, this looks great. I don't have a clue of how this works, and I am trying. So, what is the best solution? And then I bought a bunch of random, like I bought lenses, I bought adapters, I bought cinema lenses, and full on projection lenses that are in turn adapters. So I had all of the options for working with anamorphics on different budget tiers, from like $100 on something to $2,000 on something else. And I was like, okay, cool. Let's grab the 7D and let's see what goes. And I started experimenting to understand, like, what does the squeeze do? Why do you need to mount lenses in a certain way? What is the effect of these weird, like, 1960s, 1970s adapters on modern glass? Do I need to use different spherical lenses instead of the Canon L? Will I get a better performance? Will I get a worse performance, but that's actually a better thing? Uh, how am I going to create a unique visual uh, with this weird thing, and also have my crew understand what the hell is going on? Because it doesn't make sense if the person running the camera has to do all the other jobs on set because nobody understands what they're doing. Uh, so I started writing, and I was like, cool, this is what squeeze factors do. This is what these adapters do. This is how they work. This is how you focus things. This is how the image gets formed on the sensor. These are types of lenses and optical designs that work well with anamorphic attachments. This is how much light you lose. This is how much field of view you lose. This is how much the compression is hurting, like the internal compression of the camera is hurting the final image. This is how you treat this in editing software. Uh, and I just started doing that for myself at one point. Later, I figured out that was going to be my graduation work for university, and then I turned that into like a 120-page paper that was thoroughly tested through the process of making Zona SSP, in which I used adapters, I used cinema lenses, I used two different cameras, and I had very different lighting scenarios. Like one episode is entirely natural lighting, as in daylight, sunlight, and bounds. And the other episode is all artificial lighting through LEDs and fire and other small budget light sources, and compare those performances. So when I finished that, I came to Canada and I put everything on pause. I sold a bunch of gear. And after I finished VFS, I was in limbo. I was super depressed because I was away from home. It was cold as hell. Canada's so cold in the winter. And if you're coming from Salvador, Salvador is an average like 20 24 is cold. 24 Celsius is cold in Salvador. Here in winter is like 2. So it's pretty depressing. It rains a lot. And I was depressed and I was like, I don't have anything. Like I can't have a job. I can't work. I can't study anything because there's nothing going. I just don't want to do it. I'm too depressed for this. And I decided to start the channel. I'm like, here's the process. I'm going to document all of these lenses that I have. I'm going to film their characteristics. I noticed that a lot of lens reviews are deeply subjective and people just go and film a story and be like, this is how this lens works. But that's not really comparable. Like you can't compare 2 stories and be like, oh, this lens is vastly superior. Maybe I just like this story better.
It's like it's like when I bought a guitar. I went to the shop. I saw a cheap guitar. I asked about that guitar to the salesperson. He grabbed the guitar, played a beautiful tune. It was beautiful. Look, I heard that it was amazing. I said, I'm gonna buy the guitar. I went home, started playing. Crap. So yeah, you see what people can do with that lens. You love it, but does that work? Not every time.
Yeah. And that's what I wanted to create, like create a database in which people could compare objectively the performance of these various anamorphic lenses and adapters. And I said, I'm just going to use the gear that I have. I'm not going to spend a cent on this project. It is what it is. If you don't like it, you can leave. And I started and I went through all of my adapters, and that took like almost a year. And there was a structure to the videos. It's like this is the size of the lens, the specs, this is how it behaves in these, like at this aperture, at this focal length, blah, blah, blah. And here's like a little sample video, which is like the creative thing. But most of it is not focused on that. And like for what I was doing, I was just putting to use all of my graduation work. Like I translated that in a flight from Sao Paulo to Canada, to Vancouver. I translated the 100 pages in one overnight flight. And I was like, yeah, I'll put this on my blog. And the stuff that I did in Portuguese still doesn't exist in English. Like if you want to learn how to use these lenses, you still don't have a clear path. So let's just do that and just give it back to the community and put it out there. And that was part of the core idea for the channel as well. Like it used to be called Anamorphic on a Budget, and that's how most people still know it. And every time that I was like, should I charge for this? My internal answer is always no. I shouldn't charge for this because the goal is to make it as cheap as possible. If I want people to use this, I can't charge them to use it. Like education should be free. That's my one takeaway from Brazil. Education should be free. Done. And like, so people got engaged to the content and they would ask for things, ask questions, give suggestions. Somebody started, like lots of people started complaining about the quality of the sound. And I'm like, okay, guys, if you want to complain about the sound, what is a good mic? And then somebody pointed me to a mic and then I went, okay, cool. Yeah, I can afford this. Let's go, $30. And then that improved the video. So it was like a feedback loop, but unlike most internet feedback loops, it was a positive feedback loop in which people would say, hey, I really like this. You could use this to make it better. And I was growing in that process. And like, I met a ton of people through the channel. I met people online and then got to meet them in real life. I met people who were like, hey, I love your channel. I have this really rare lens that you don't have on your channel. Would you like to review it? And I'm like, are you going to send a really rare lens to a stranger in another country because you like their internet material? And they're like, yeah, that's pretty solid. And like, I got several lenses from people that I never met. And like, that means so much. That means so much. That is the internet that I want to be part of, is where people trust each other and like grow and learn together. So that has always been a strong motivation for the channel. And then I think it was in 2019, I did a very strong push for monetizing the channel. So I turned on ads and I tried to negotiate with brands to like get payment for the videos because I would get free gear. At one point I started to get like, that was 2019, maybe. Yeah, maybe 2019 with Suray. But up until then, there was like, I'm just talking about 50-year-old gear. There's no one's going to sponsor this video. So there's no money coming in. There's just ads. So it's like, I'm going to monetize this. It's going to be a huge hit. It was a flop. I burned out and it was close to NAB. So it was close to April 2019. And I'm like, yeah, I guess like haven't posted in months. It was shortly after I came back from the States where I met someone in Grand Central, New York, a guy named Nick, who met me. I landed in New York. I was going to my partner's family home in Connecticut. Landed in New York, talked to this guy, Nick, over Instagram, I think. And he was like, hey, I have an Atlas 40 millimeters that I would love to see on your channel. And I'm in New York. I'm like, cool, do you want to meet in Grand Central? And he's like, yeah, sure. So he met me at like 7 a.m., complete stranger, hands me a case with a $10,000 lens. It's like, okay, let me know when you're coming back through here so I can pick it up. And I'm like, all right, sweet. Yeah, that sounds great. So I took the lens to Connecticut and I spent 2.5 weeks with it, filmed a ton, had a blast. I'm like, wow, this is amazing. Like, this is so much better than adapters. And then I went back and like kind of made a video, but wasn't too much about it. And that was the only video I made that year. And I was going to NAB. I'm like, yeah, this is the grand finale. Like, I'm going to NAB. I always wanted to go, and I'm gonna quit. And that's the end of the channel. So I did. I went to NAB, and I'm there, and like a lot of people came to talk to me. I did not expect. I did not expect. So a lot of people came up. It's like, hey, I watch your videos. Like, they're so good. I decided this. I made this short film in Anamorphic. I'm studying this. I'm trying this lens. And I'm like, I have no idea where this is going. Like, I don't know what the impact is of these videos that I'm putting online. And it's apparently like meaning something. Uh,
It's gotten me to you. Because I started watching those videos and I thought, oh, what is his name? What is it Tito Ferradans? Oh, it's Tito Ferradans. Okay, yeah. Oh, let me look him up. Oh, yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. And I'm living in Sydney, so
yeah.
It's gotten pretty far.
And in that one NAB, I was still determined. I was like, this is it.
Just for the ones that do not know what NAB is, could you explain
NAB
that?
is the National Association of Broadcasters, and it's a big conference that happens in Vegas every year where a lot of brands bring like their latest and greatest gear. There's a lot of software, and you get to play with all the toys, but you don't have to commit to buying any. So that's why it's fun. And you meet a lot of the manufacturers.
Disney World it's Disney World for the ones that like cinematography and broadcast.
Yes, very true. And then at one point I'm watching this presentation by the guys in Corridor Digital, and they're talking about editing for YouTube or whatever. And I was like, this is interesting, cool. At the end of the presentation, my girlfriend gets her phone and she bolts to the front of the stage, and I'm just following her. And then Sam from Corridor Digital points to me in the crowd and is like, I love your channel. And I'm like, who, me? And it's like, yeah, you with the anamorphic stuff. And I'm like, wow, I really have no idea where the stuff that I'm putting online is going. Because if this guy can pick me out in a crowd, like, there is an impact. It's much bigger than what I'm thinking it is. So I got to talk to them, and they were like trying to do something along the lines of an experiment that I was doing in the channel with like oval apertures and modifying lenses. So I was like, oh yeah, sure. I'll make a tutorial and I'll send it over to you. And they made a video with that experiment. But from that moment, I was like, okay, cool. The answer is not to go for the money, but this is having a really relevant impact on people's lives. And I don't think I want to stop making this. Like, there's still a lot to explore. There's a lot of misinformation. And I there's still a lot coming on. Like I wanted to talk about Atlas, so I finished that video, and then the next year or the same year, Sure came out with their little anamorphic lenses, the cheaper ones. And that was a huge change. Like the channel popularity just like skyrocketed at that point because suddenly it wasn't dollars, suddenly it was $1,000, $600 to get an anamorphic lens. And then people are going like, what is an anamorphic lens? And some dude on the internet was talking about it for a whole 5 years in advance. So that put me in a very unique position.
And a question: you do have your thesis from university available for people that want to purchase it. It's the Anamorphic Cookbook, correct?
Yeah, so there is the Anamorphic on a Budget guide, and that is my university thesis.
Sorry,
yeah.
Anamorphic Budget guide.
That is a PDF, and I'm selling that online. But there's also a free version on my blog, which is currently offline because I'm too stupid to figure it out. But anyway, there is a free version if you don't want to buy the PDF. It's just outdated. And then the cookbook is a series in which I'm developing in partnership with brands that cover the fundamentals of anamorphics, like where it came from, how do the optics work, how does production work, what kind of planning do you need to do about it that is different from filming with spherical, how is post-production, how do you de-squeeze your footage, how do you do visual effects on it. Yeah.
And Tito, these technical aspects, did you get interested in all of that because of the look that you wanted to portray in your content? Did you always have that mind that is able to sort of categorize, understand the process, and you saw that as something that you could give to other people that maybe are not as focused on each of the different aspects, how those aspects come together? Or is it just a real obsession with understanding what's behind the gadget, what's behind the lens, what's behind the image? What's your drive?
The drive is, I wish it was the first one. I wish it was the second one. But in actuality is I saw so much wrong information online that I just could not stand by it. I'm like, I just can't be quiet. Like, people are not going to succeed if they're following these steps. I gotta do this in a way that's proper. And then it gets into more of the first aspect, which is how do I break down these concepts in a really like straightforward way? And sometimes it's not straightforward at all, but like, how do I break them down for anyone to understand? And for that, like I talk to my mom a lot. I'm like, Mom, I'm going to try to explain you this lens thing. And my goal is by the end of it, you will understand what I am saying, even though you don't work with it at all. You don't even know what I am talking about, but I need you to understand this concept. And like, that is my trial. It's like, I think I understand what I'm talking about. So let's see if I can explain it to someone who really has no clue.
But even one step before that, to be able to see, hey, that's not accurate, that's not correct, that won't get people far, that takes a step back to actually know what is actually what is actually producing those results, what is actually making the lens, although round, produce a wider image. How did you get interested in that specific physics of the anamorphic lens?
Yeah, I think that was a very early thing in the process, in which, like, after reading everything that I could on the topic, I still didn't get how it worked. It just didn't make sense. Like, all of this information doesn't compute to what the final output is. So I need to figure it out. And that's when I got a lens and I looked through it and I'm like, clearly that's how it's working. And then from there, it's just trying to convey what that is in a way that anyone can understand without having to buy the lens. Uh, that is the initial, and I think still one of the driving forces. Uh,
It's the
yeah,
mystery that
yeah,
drives you. The mystery of
yeah.
the
How does this work?
of the
Yeah, how can
unexplainable.
we communicate? Like if I'm talking about a lens and I'm talking about what I like it, a struggle that I have is people say, "Oh, this lens has so much character," but like, what does that mean?
Is it an evil character?
Right?
It is a kind. It is a.
Yeah.
It is.
Like,
Is it a
is
kind
it good?
character?
Is that a good thing? Is it soft? Is it sharp? Is it blurry? Is it shallow? What is it? Like, what are the words? And there's a very like there's a lack. I love the English form of like there is a lack. um, because we don't have the vocabulary. We don't have like it is not something that we learn as cinematographers or as camera people even. You don't learn how to describe an image. You just say, "Oh, this looks good. This looks pretty. This has character." But oh, I like uh, the way the spherical aberration is manifesting on the bokeh. Like that has a meaning. You can look at the bokeh and you can look at the spherical aberration and understand what that means without looking at the image. Um, so this is where I'm pushing towards now. This is where the future is. At NAB this year, I had a conversation starter, which is, what is a creamy lens to you? And people would describe. And it was complete opposites. Like people would say, oh, it's very soft and like glowy, lots of halation. And some people would be like, it's almost like high frame rate and like very defined. And I'm like, do you guys see how we're using the same word to mean the exact opposites? Uh, and and pursuing that, like pursuing building that vocabulary, to which I'm using a lot of Jay Hoban and Christopher Probst's work with the Cine Lens Manual. They have it's a chunk of a book, and it's a great read, but most people are not going to take the time. So the idea is to break down what are these core visual characteristics that we can translate into words to the ultimate goal is that we can tell manufacturers what we want to see in a lens. And that is a fun thing about the channel, which is being in touch with the manufacturers. And then like they send lenses and then you're like, this is not really great because of this and this and this. Because if you don't have the vocabulary, you just say, yeah, I don't really like it. But like that is taste and everybody has their own. If I don't like a lens, it doesn't mean the lens is bad. It doesn't mean that it's underperforming. It just means that it doesn't fit the thing that I'm trying to create now. It might fit the thing that I'm trying to create tomorrow, but it doesn't fit right now. Every project has its own visual, so you can't be like, what is the best lens? It's what is the best lens for this project? Like that's how that sentence should go. Um, and it's not just lens, like it's for any gear. What is the best gear for this story that we're trying to tell? Because you have to put story above it all. You can't put gear above story. Like that is a fundamental mistake that people do, especially after watching too much YouTube. They'll be like, oh, all I need is to buy this camera and then I'll be able to make my movie. And then they buy the camera, but there's already a newer one. It's like, but that one's just so much better. So maybe I'll buy that instead and then make my movie. And the end is they never make the movie.
But they keep
Yeah,
buying the
yeah,
gear.
yeah.
And more and more.
The best gear is the one that you have with you. Like the best camera is the one that's in your hand. The best lens is the one that you can afford. It also varies project to project. Like you might have a better budget in one project, and that allows you to get a special lens. And in another one, you're like, yeah, cool. I'm gonna borrow my friend's Sigma 18 to 35, and that's what's gonna be it. I think it's very easy to get stuck in a way of thinking that is very gear centric. Like if I don't have the latest and greatest, it's not worth telling the story. And like Hollywood was doing 2K up until like a few years ago. The resolution doesn't really matter. Uh,
Interesting, very interesting, Tito. I feel like we could go on and on and on about lenses and about looks. I'm interested in learning a little bit more about Final Version 2, the post-production company you've co-founded with Ariana and Nandan, because you've worked in big projects such as Sydney, produced by none other than Oprah, and The Twilight Zone, created by Jordan Peele. How do you translate your knowledge of cinematography to post-production or to motion graphics?
it is a very strange overlap. A lot of post-production folks don't have a clue of how a real camera works. And vice versa. People on set don't have a clue of how post goes. So having the understanding of both sides of this coin, this metaphorical coin, uh, is incredibly helpful because for me, I'm much more on the motion design side of things. So when I am coming up with elements for Sydney, for example, we wanted to go really hardcore on analog. It's like if we could film these elements, what would they look like? And that is like the text, people's names. The movie uses a lot of like different panels and mats. And we were like, how would those behave if they were filmed, if they were made by hand and not digital? And so in building those elements, I was like, cool, I'm going to make like the animation for the thing. And then we're going to stack a lot of what I understand are optical imperfections on them. We're going to have like some spherical aberrations towards the edges. We're going to have some level of blurriness. We're going to have chromatic aberration, which is when the color channels separate as you go away from the center of the image, because no lens is perfect. We're going to have a little bit of gate weave, which is when the film is running through the camera, it doesn't land perfectly on the spot every time. So things shake a little bit. So we're going to build that into the graphics. We're going to add a little bit of halation, as if like when those mats are opening and closes, there's more light. So the light that's in the background of the elements is going to affect the how glowy, let's say, for the lack of a better word, the elements are going to be. And at the same time, be taking a ton of feedback of like, yeah, this font really doesn't work. This animation is being a little hard to follow, and building all of those things together to make it like as an organic looking film as we could. And that was a huge project. I was on that for over 6 months, and that's probably the longest I've ever been on any post-production project, single post-production project.
And how do you get to such a big client? Because if it was a huge film, I saw it on Apple TV. It's such a beautiful documentary, such a powerful story, but I imagine the stakes were really high. How do you build your company to that level?
Yeah, so that kind of connects to when I got my permanent residency for Canada and I could start working. Because I was working on set and I was getting really stressed out. And a friend recommended me for this After Effects job, which I hadn't done in like 5 years. So I went to the interview and they were like, can you do this thing? And I looked at it and I'm like, yeah, I can do that. I can totally do that. Uh, and so I started working in post in Vancouver, which was not at all the way that I expected to start working in post. And then that project led to another project within the same with the same company, and then another one, and then another one, and then another one, until we were doing like big films like Sydney. And it was around Sydney that we actually founded Final Version 2, because we were all tired. Like Ariana and Nandan had worked in the industry, they worked at bigger studios, and I was just being freelance the entire time. And we all had some grievances for how the industry worked. And we wanted to do our own thing. So we banded together, we started the company. Ariana had just finished Avatar, The Last Airbender. She was doing the virtual production, so she was operating the LED wall for season one. Nandan was working at Crafty Apes on The Last of Us and a bunch of other shows. And we got also
Also
post.
post-production.
Everything is post. Ariana wasn't on set, but is a department that fits in post. Uh, and then we all got together and it's like, yeah, let's just play by our own rules. We have a big network of people that we can pull jobs from, and let's see where it goes. And then we did that, and then the strike happened. So on the first year, yeah, it was perfect
Perfect
time. On the
timing.
first year, there was really nothing going on. Like there was nothing to, when I declared my taxes, I was like, well, I didn't make anything this year. I don't even know how I paid my bills. Uh, but on the second year, some production was coming back, and a few people that we had worked together before were like, hey, you guys have your own thing now. Let's work together and let's continue. And the differential with Final Version 2 is that we do graphics and visual effects. A lot of times, collections will go for one place for graphics and another place for visual effects, and they don't have a lot of overlap, and you end up paying overhead here and overhead here. So by merging it in one place, we're able to get both the graphics notes and be responsible for those elements, as well as the effects plates, and then work out how those graphics are going to go on those plates and like make graphics that will work on such plates, because the team is really interconnected and communicating like, I don't know, oh, this key is not so great. So when you make the graphic, like play it towards blue because the recorded screen was blue and like some stuff is not coming out. So we can play on the graphics so it looks best, and we're not fighting the raw material, like the production material. Because yeah, the main thing about being in post and not being necessarily involved in production is struggling with how little production understands of post overall. Yeah.
I see. But since maybe you had Ariana doing a few things on set, that's a gap that you were able to
Yeah,
make
we're
smaller,
always working
right?
on it. And like when we get shows before they go to production, we make sure that we're extra involved for when they go to production. They film things in the way that works best for what they want to tell, the story that they want to tell. And a lot of times DPs would be like, oh yeah, I just have to like do a lock off shot. And yeah, like sure, that'll probably work, but also it kills any excitement that you might have in a shot. So what we want to do is think of the shots with the director and be like, this is how we're going to execute this. So your vision comes through with the effects, with the graphics, and with the cinematography. We were just working on an indie project from LA with one of Ariana's friends from her time on Avatar, and the director wanted this really long one shot that goes from the characters coming out of like this quiet room, and it's a massive party in an office space, and like there's flashing lights and there's people dressed up and everybody is playing and doing something, and a character walks through that and the camera is like kind of like taking you through that madness, and you're like, this is really cool. The movie's about games, uh, and we wanted to enhance that with graphics. So we're like, this is how we're going to play this shot. We're going to break it into 12 sections. And each of these sections is going to have an element. And the way that we're going to treat each of these elements is different. Uh, this is how we need it to be filmed. This is how we need it to be delivered to us by the editor. And the rest we'll figure out. And like, it is one of my like the shots that I'm proudest of having worked on, because like there are 12 different complex graphics in this one sequence that is a one shot through flashing lights. Like a lot of times people would just look at the shot and be like, yeah, we can't track this. And it's like, sure, you can't track the whole shot, but if you're thinking about this from pre-production, you know exactly, like, I need to track these 100 frames. I need a 3D track for this element, but I can do a 2D track for this other element. Uh, I can just force perspective for this other thing. And like each element had a different solution. And we could only do that because we planned it with the director, and Ariana was on set again to make sure that the shot was going to work for the thing that we were doing, uh, and having good references.
That's another mystery. That's brilliant, because that's another mystery that you have to calculate and prepare ahead for. Tito, I have one question that I asked Ariana, and I asked, what job would Tito be terrible at? And she said that you actually would be terrible too.
More than two.
Call center representative and mall center. Is she right?
Go again. What are the two? Yeah.
Call center representative. You cannot sit on a phone and deal with complaints. And mall center, hot suit plus screaming children and forced smile.
I think she's right. I think she's very right. Like, yeah. I tend to complain a lot myself. Like in my process of working on something, I am complaining about it. I'm working, I'm happy, but I am complaining. So it is hard for me to take on complaints from someone else. Like that is the thing that we do when we get client feedback, is I will read the feedback and I will take an hour before I say anything about it, because otherwise it's just bad. Yeah. But yeah, and yeah, I think she's very right. I have a really hard time like keeping up appearances. A lot of comments on the channel are like, "Oh, you have like great video, but you have such unprofessional looks," and I'm like, "Bruh, don't look yet."
What kind of comment is that? What is a professional look?
Yeah. So I'm like, cool, just like don't look at the image, then listen to it like a podcast.
And Lila said that it would be very hard for you to be a lawyer because you are good with conflict resolution, but you have no patience for social formalities.
That is also a very good statement. There's an expression in Portuguese. Let me know if you know how to say in English, because I haven't figured it out yet. But mostrar trabalho. You know, when you're trying to show that you look busy.
Look busy.
Like,
trying to look busy.
I can't do that. I can't look busy. I'm either busy or I am not. Because if I'm not busy, I'm not gonna try. So yeah. So I can't do that. I can't do that. Yeah.
I heard an audio engineer say that he has a fader on his console on the desk that's called the producer fader. The fader does nothing, but every time a producer comes and says, "Hey, I need a little bit more loudness on that specific drum or whatever," he's, "Oh, sure," and he pushes that.
And that's it. Yeah, I think that's a great solution, because a lot of feedback, like that is one of the biggest challenges in the industry, is how people give feedback. A lot of the feedback is, "Can we do better?" Or like, "I like this, but can we try something completely different?" And I'm like, if you like this, why do you want to try something completely different? I got a pizza. I took a bite. Yeah, it's pretty good. Can I actually have a barbecue?
Yeah. I find that comes a little bit because people don't actually know what is involved in they don't know what they want, that's for sure, and they don't know what's involved in that specific thing that whatever department has to do. So they will.
I prefer when people give feedback in which they're like, the problem I'm having is this. And then they explain the problem. Like, I am having a hard time reading the words on this map as the camera moves. Like, this is a much better note. I can work with this note instead of, can you make the words bigger? It's not going to solve the problem. Like, tell me what the problem is, and I have the understanding, the specific understanding to address that problem. But people think that like, oh, the better feedback is the one that is just, here's the solution to the problem. But like, you don't know what the solution is. You might know, and if you do, like, have a conversation about it. But like, don't be afraid to explain what the problem is. Because people are like, we people that come up with solutions, filmmakers, strive on solving problems. The director's like, I want to do this shot, but I have no idea how. The DP is going to be like, hell yeah, I know exactly how. And that's the best time of filmmaking. Like, those are the best moments when you come up and you say, I don't know how to do this. And somebody comes from left field and they're like, I've waited my entire life for this moment. I have the perfect answer. And they do. And they do. Because it is a collaborative art. Like, it's not any one person's film. It's everyone's. We have a thing where it's like, oh, it's the director. The director's everything. The director knows all the answers. I found that directors are way more successful when they ask the right questions, more than when they provide the right answers. And yeah, it's a team sport. That's why I'm still in film, because it's a team sport and I still find teams.
And is that something you learned with making films, or had you had always that same look in collaborative efforts? It's a team effort.
I think it's a learned thing. Like, from school group projects, I used to be the person that does the group project. It's like, I do the project and everybody's just like idling by. And I wouldn't be like, hey guys, you got to do the thing. It's just like convincing them is more work than actually doing the work. So I'll just do it. So it was through the process of living experiences in which I was not able to do the whole thing and have to have people step up and be like, oh, I see that we're not getting there, or say, hey guys, I need help. I don't know how to solve this. And have people step up and say, I know how to do this, or not even I know how to do this, but I will take care of this. And they do, and they do, using their resources, their team, or whatever's available. Like, they will come up with something that addresses that issue. And it's not everyone. It's not all the time that this happens. But when it does, it is such a phenomenal feeling that is what I think partly the reason people stick to film. Like, even if they're not being paid well, even if they're not working in projects they believe in, if they're working on a team that has a lot of good people, you can overlook so many other problems. If you're just like in good company, you could be having a terrible time with people that you like, and that is still a good time in your memory. Like, afterwards, you're like, oh man, that sucked, but you're smiling and laughing about it. I find that a lot of crews work like this here in Vancouver. Like, you have people that really put through awful experiences, and they look back and they're like, man, that was crazy. We're not doing that again. And then they do. Because it's with people they care about and they love. And like, I don't agree with the message of this film, but like, my buddy needs this to work out, so I will bring my best to the work. Is a little bit of that. I don't know if that came out clear.
Yes, that's absolutely clear. Absolutely clear. Tito, I have one last question. And this is a question I ask all my guests here in the podcast. And the question is, what makes you, you?
Okay. I think I'm very driven to solve problems. So I'm always surrounded by problems. Like, it's funny because where I work in film is in post-production. It's near the end. It's like the problems that we couldn't solve before, these are the ones that need to be solved. But in my actual life, this is also how I show up. Is like, when you go to a friend's party and you like get there early, but the party is not all put together. And then I'm like, hell yeah, let's go. Let's put this party together. Like, let's finish this cooking. Let's assemble this thing. Let's decorate that. Like, is I will get things done. And that has been like both a blessing and a curse. It has taken me great places, but it's also taken lots of energy in things that were not really worth it. But it's an energy that I really like. So I think like being able to get things done and support people in finding or achieving their vision, be that for a film or for a birthday party or like a conversation, a story, a book, whatever it is that they have a vision about, like showing up and supporting that vision is something that I really, really enjoy. It doesn't have to, like, I don't have to win the award. I don't have to be the person talking about anamorphic lenses. I just want it to be done. Yeah.
Interesting. Very interesting. Tito, both Ariana and Lila said that when you walk into a room, everyone takes a sigh of relief because you're good at making the room feel comfortable. I agree 100% with them. It was an honor talking to you here on the Creative Ticket. Thank you so much for taking up this
Thank you
chat.
so much. It was a pleasure. This time flew by. Thank you so much for having me, Gerald.
Thank you for listening to the Creative Ticket podcast. If you enjoyed the episode, please remember to share this with your friends and family and subscribe so you can stay up to date with new episodes. Feel free to reach out to hello@pacificvideo.com.au for feedback and suggestions. We would love to hear from you. Take care